You've probably heard of World War I, the war to end all wars, the trenches, the alliances, the chaos. But what if I told you that one of the key reasons the United States entered the war wasn't soldiers or weapons, it was a telegram? Yes, a single telegram sent in 1917 had the power to ignite outrage, turn public opinion, and draw America into a global conflict it vowed to avoid. This wasn't just any telegram. It was a message so bold, so reckless, that it changed history forever. What did it say? How did it get intercepted? And why did it terrify the most powerful nations in the world? Stay tuned, because this is the story of how a single, shocking telegram turned the tide of World War I and rewrote history. In early 1917, the world was engulfed in the chaos of World War I. Europe had been fighting for nearly 3 years, and the United States had managed to stay neutral, officially at least, but tensions were rising. German submarines, known as U-boats, were relentlessly targeting ships crossing the Atlantic, sinking both military vessels and civilian ships. Among them was the infamous sinking of the Lusitania in 1915, which killed 128 Americans and pushed the US closer to the brink of involvement. Germany's leaders, desperate to turn the tide of the war, believed they needed to escalate their tactics. They announced a policy of unrestricted submarine warfare, targeting any ship they deemed a threat, regardless of its nationality. They knew this decision might provoke the United States, but they were banking on one critical plan to keep America distracted. A plan that would soon be immortalized in history. The architect of this plan was Arthur Zimmerman, Germany's foreign secretary. His idea: draw Mexico into the war as an ally of Germany. By promising Mexico territories it had lost to the United States, Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico, Germany hoped to create a direct threat on America's southern border. If Mexico agreed, it could tie up American forces and resources, keeping them out of Europe long enough for Germany to win the war. To execute this bold scheme, Zimmerman sent a secret message on January 16, 1917. It was encoded in the latest German cipher and transmitted via telegram through several intermediaries. The Germans were confident in their encryption and their plan. What they didn't realize, however, was that their secret wasn't safe. Unbeknownst to Germany, British intelligence had already cracked one of their key codes, and when the British intercepted Zimmerman's telegram, they immediately understood its explosive significance. The question was, how would they use this information without exposing their secret ability to intercept German communications? This seemingly ordinary message was about to spark one of the most pivotal moments in modern history. The Zimmerman telegram didn't start out as an act of war. It began as a calculated gamble. By early 1917, Germany was facing mounting pressure. The Allied naval blockade was starving the country of critical supplies, and morale was sinking fast. Germany needed a decisive victory, and they believed the key to winning was breaking their enemies' supply lines. Unrestricted submarine warfare was their answer. This strategy meant attacking all ships, military or civilian, heading to Britain regardless of their origin. But Germany knew this move came with risks. They'd already seen how the sinking of the Lusitania had infuriated the American public. Another incident like that could push the United States to join the war on the side of the Allies. To counterbalance this risk, German officials turned to a daring plan. Arthur Zimmerman, Germany's foreign secretary, devised a strategy to keep the United States too distracted to intervene in Europe. The idea was to recruit Mexico as a German ally, drawing America's attention and its troops southward. The promise: if Mexico joined forces with Germany, they would regain territories lost to the US in the 19th century: Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. It wasn't just a promise, it was a temptation to rewrite history. Mexico, still recovering from its revolution, had little capacity for a major war, but the offer was provocative enough to spark interest. And that was the point. Even if Mexico couldn't launch a full-scale invasion, the mere threat of conflict on its southern border could force America to stay neutral, or so Germany hoped. To make this plan happen, Zimmerman drafted his infamous message. It was encoded in a complex cipher designed to keep the details secret. To deliver it, Germany used a roundabout route, relying on neutral countries like Sweden and even the United States itself to pass along the message via telegram. They believed the circuitous path would keep their communication safe from prying eyes. What they didn't account for was Britain's code-breaking prowess. British intelligence had long been intercepting German communications, and their cryptographic team, known as Room 40, had quietly cracked one of Germany's key ciphers. When the telegram passed through British hands, it landed right in Room 40's lap. The British analysts couldn't believe what they were reading. Here was Germany, openly plotting an alliance against the United States. It was a gift, a potential game changer, but it came with its own risks. If Britain acted too quickly or revealed too much, they'd expose their ability to intercept German communications, losing a vital advantage in the war. The Zimmerman telegram was a bold move by Germany, but it was also a perfect storm of circumstances, a gamble that hinged on secrecy, timing, and diplomacy. And as history would soon reveal, it was a gamble that didn't pay off.
When the Zimmerman telegram landed in the hands of Room 40, the British code-breaking team, it was like striking gold. For months we had been intercepting German communications, meticulously decoding messages that revealed troop movements, supply lines, and strategic plans. But this message was unlike any we had seen before. It wasn't just about the war in Europe, it was a direct threat to the United States.
The telegram was intercepted on its way to the German ambassador in Mexico, Heinrich von Eckart. Its contents were explosive. In the message, Zimmerman instructed Eckart to approach the Mexican government with an audacious proposal. If the United States entered the war, Mexico should declare war on the US in return for German financial and military support. The prize, the recovery of their lost territories of Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. For the British, the stakes were high. They knew this information could be the key to bringing the United States into the war, a move that would tip the balance of power in favor of the Allies. But there was a problem. If Britain revealed they had intercepted the telegram, it would expose their code-breaking efforts to the Germans, who would then change their ciphers. The British would lose their ability to intercept German communications, a critical advantage in the war.
The solution required finesse. We crafted a plan to disguise how we had obtained the telegram. Instead of revealing our own interception, we claimed the telegram had been stolen from a telegraph office in Mexico. This misdirection allowed us to present the intercepted message without revealing our cryptographic breakthrough.
But there was another challenge: how to convince the United States to believe it. The idea of Germany plotting with Mexico seemed almost too far-fetched to be true. To make the message undeniable, the British waited until they had absolute proof of its authenticity before handing it over to the Americans. On February 24, 1917, the British government presented the decoded Zimmerman telegram to Walter Page, the US ambassador to Britain. Page immediately forwarded it to President Woodrow Wilson, who was initially skeptical. The idea of Germany conspiring with Mexico seemed absurd, and Wilson hesitated to believe such a bold claim without hard evidence. To validate the message, British intelligence shared both the intercepted telegram and the decoded version. Still, Wilson knew he needed to tread carefully. For years, he had kept the United States neutral despite growing public outrage over German submarine attacks. Revealing the Zimmerman telegram would likely ignite a wave of pro-war sentiment, but it also risked dividing the nation, which still harbored many isolationist views. Then came a twist that left no room for doubt. On March 1, 1917, the United States publicly released the contents of the Zimmerman telegram. The reaction was immediate and visceral. Newspapers ran dramatic headlines and the public was outraged. Many Americans had already been on edge after repeated German U-boat attacks, but this message confirmed their worst fears. Germany was actively plotting against them. The German government didn't help its case. Instead of denying the authenticity of the telegram, Arthur Zimmerman himself confirmed it in a press conference on March 3rd. He claimed the proposal to Mexico was simply a contingency plan, but for the American public, his admission was tantamount to a declaration of war. In the United States, the release of the Zimmerman telegram was like throwing gasoline on a smoldering fire. The American public, already angered by the loss of lives in submarine attacks, now saw Germany as a direct threat to their sovereignty. Calls for war echoed across the country, and even some of the staunchest isolationists began to change their stance. Mexico's response, however, was less dramatic than Germany had hoped. The Mexican government, led by President Venustiano Carranza, examined the proposal and ultimately decided against it. The promise of regaining lost territory sounded enticing on paper, but the reality was far less appealing. Mexico was recovering from a devastating revolution, and its military and economy were in no condition to fight a war against the United States. Additionally, Mexico doubted Germany's ability to deliver on its promises. How would Germany provide military and financial support when it was thousands of miles away and already stretched thin by the war in Europe? For Mexico, the risks far outweighed the potential rewards. Despite Mexico's rejection, the damage was already done. The idea of Germany conspiring to attack the United States through its southern neighbor was enough to galvanize American opinion. The Zimmerman telegram wasn't just a diplomatic misstep, it was a public relations disaster for Germany. The Zimmerman telegram was the final straw in a series of provocations that pushed the United States into World War I. On April 2, 1917, President Wilson addressed Congress, calling for a declaration of war against Germany. In his speech, Wilson framed the conflict as a fight to make the world safe for democracy. He emphasized that Germany's actions, from unrestricted submarine warfare to the Zimmerman telegram, were an attack on the principles of freedom and peace. 4 days later, on April 6th, Congress formally declared war on Germany, marking the United States' entry into the global conflict. The Zimmerman telegram had achieved the opposite of what Germany intended. Instead of keeping America neutral, it had united the country against them. With the United States in the war, the tide began to turn. American troops and resources bolstered the Allied forces, ultimately leading to Germany's defeat in 1918. The Zimmerman telegram, a single encrypted message, had changed the course of history. The fallout didn't end there. The event highlighted the importance of intelligence and cryptography in modern warfare, showing how a few lines of intercepted code could alter the fate of nations. For Germany, it was a cautionary tale about the dangers of overconfidence and the unintended consequences of reckless diplomacy. The Zimmerman telegram wasn't just a footnote in history, it was a turning point that shaped the 20th century. The Zimmerman telegram story wasn't just about espionage and diplomacy. It also came with an unexpected twist that left even its most seasoned interpreters stunned.
When I publicly admitted the authenticity of the telegram, it seemed like a move so brazen, so unbelievable, that many questioned whether it was intentional. Why would Germany admit to such a provocative scheme, knowing it would fuel American outrage?
The answer may lie in Germany's miscalculation of American sentiment. Zimmerman and his advisors believed that the United States, deeply divided over the idea of entering the war, wouldn't respond militarily to the telegram. They saw the US as a hesitant superpower, more concerned with internal affairs than foreign conflicts.
My admission was likely intended to downplay the threat of the proposal, painting it as a mere contingency rather than an active plan.
But this misstep only added fuel to the fire. Rather than calming tensions, it hardened American resolve, transforming skepticism into certainty. The public's reaction was swift and unforgiving, and Zimmerman's gambit backfired spectacularly. For the British, however, the challenges were different. Their decision to expose the telegram was risky. They needed to ensure the Americans trusted the source of the information without revealing their secret code-breaking capabilities. Even more daunting was their fear of retaliation from Germany if the source of the leak was discovered. British intelligence walked a tightrope, balancing the need to act against the risk of exposing their hand. From every angle, the Zimmerman telegram was a high-stakes game. One misstep, whether in its encryption, interception, or revelation, could have altered history. It was a gamble for everyone involved, but one that ultimately tipped the scales toward a resolution no one anticipated. The Zimmerman telegram's revelation marked a pivotal moment in World War I, but its impact didn't end there. The message catalyzed a series of events that reshaped global alliances, forever altering the balance of power. For the United States, it became a symbol of the dangers of staying neutral in a world increasingly interconnected by technology and communication. After the US formally entered the war on April 6, 1917, American troops and resources began arriving in Europe, providing a much-needed boost to the beleaguered Allied forces. The psychological impact was just as significant as the physical reinforcements. Germany now faced the might of a fresh and industrially superior superpower. For Germany, the telegram was a diplomatic disaster with long-lasting consequences. Not only did it fail to keep the United States out of the war, but it also showcased the vulnerabilities of their communication systems. The British, having kept their code-breaking efforts secret, continued to intercept critical German communications, further undermining their war effort. On a broader level, the Zimmerman telegram illustrated the growing role of intelligence and information in warfare. The ability to intercept and decode messages became a cornerstone of modern military strategy, influencing wars long after World War I ended. It also served as a cautionary tale about the risks of underestimating your opponent, whether on the battlefield or in the realm of espionage. In the end, the Zimmerman telegram wasn't just a diplomatic blunder or a footnote in history, it was a testament to the power of words, proving that a single message sent in secret and intercepted by chance could change the fate of nations. The legacy of that encrypted telegram serves as a reminder of how fragile the balance of power can be, and how one seemingly small decision can ripple through history, shaping the world in ways no one could predict.